Hi, welcome back. Today, to start class, I would like you to please take the quiz that's in the classroom folder. It's based on your homework from last night. After you've taken the quiz, check your answers for the quiz. If you didn't do very well, go ahead and review your homework. Maybe talk to a classmate before you move on. If you're very confused, please talk to me so that you understand all of that fun rhyme scheme and meter business that we learned yesterday. Go ahead, take your quiz. So now that you're done with your quiz, we're going to talk today about the sonnet. So to start, what I would like you to do is go into your textbook and find the definition of these terms, the sonnet and the couplet, and add them to your notes. Do that now. So now that you have the definition of a sonnet and a couplet in your notes, I'll break down some things for you. These are the key components of a sonnet. You can write these in your notes if they're not already in your definition, or you can just follow along. First major thing about a sonnet is that a sonnet is focused on one subject. Generally, it's about love, but not always. You can write a sonnet about anything. Sonnets follow a very specific rhyme scheme and meter. They're all written in iambic pentameter. So we learned that yesterday for a reason, and you'll see that when we look at our first sonnet. All sonnets are 14 lines long, and those 14 lines are broken down into 3 groups of 4-line stanzas, and they have a rhyme scheme, which I'm sure you'll notice. I'll show you in the next slide. And then at the end, there is a cute little couplet. There's always one ending couplet, and the couplet is there for a reason. You know, yesterday we mentioned that poems are really based a lot in rhythm, and when you switch the rhythm at the end of a poem, it really brings emphasis to those final lines. So the couplet is usually the most powerful part of the sonnet. I'll show you what I mean. Here's a sonnet. This is Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. The first line is the same line that we looked at yesterday. And let me read it to you first, and then we'll break it down. Here's what it says. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Sweet little poem. The main subject here being he's talking about this person and saying, you're so wonderful, should I compare you to a summer's day? That seems like a good comparison. Summer days are wonderful. But then he continues on to say, you're even better than a summer's day, because sometimes summer is too hot, and sometimes the weather changes, and sometimes, and as we know in Minnesota, summer goes away, but you are so wonderful. You're always wonderful. That doesn't change. Even when you die, if you look towards the end, it says, even death won't end your beauty or your wonderfulness, because, and this is what the couplet is about, because he's written this poem about this person. So now even after this person dies and isn't around anymore, this person's beauty will live on as long as, like he says, as long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this being the poem, and the poem gives life to this person. So it's a sweet little love poem. I like it. But more importantly, moving on, let's look at the meter here. Let's see. So I highlighted the stressed and unstressed syllables, and we saw this one, so we already know. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Nice reading, Miss Thompson. And you can see how that pattern continues. Thou art more lovely, rough winds do shake. And that goes through the whole thing, even down when we get to the couplet, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see. So that's the iambic pentameter at work, and that's what gives it the rhythm. The rhyme scheme, let's look at the first 4 lines. This is the first group of 4. And you can see a pattern of rhyme. What is it? A, B, A, B. Hopefully you saw that. And then the next one is similar. Where'd my pen go? You'll see these next 4 lines also have that rhyme pattern where it says shines, dimmed, declines, untrimmed. Then the third one is the same. And then the couplet, like we talked about, is where it changes. And you can see how the last 2 lines then, instead of going alternating with the rhyme, they both rhyme right in a row, GG, CV. And it brings emphasis to the final lines because it speeds up the rhythm and it kind of, well, it emphasizes those last 2 lines. So that's what you need to know for now about the sonnet. Let's talk, oh, there's the rhyme pattern at the end. Let's talk about your homework. You have some handouts that were in the classroom folder, and that's your independent practice today. There are 4 sonnets on there, I believe. In addition to answering the questions that are on there about each of the 4 sonnets, I want you to pick one of the sonnets and do a little extra analysis. You can pick any one you want and do that analysis based on the next slide. Your homework would be to pick, again, like I said, pick one of the 4 sonnets after you've done the initial look over of those 4 sonnets. Pick one, explain briefly the subject of the sonnet, maybe how you figured that out. Look at the sonnet line by line. I do want you to look at it line by line. There's only 14, guys, so go line by line. Make notes to clarify any words you don't know or any phrases you don't understand. And then I've underlined some figurative language throughout the poems, and I want you to try to identify, it should say any and all figurative language. So I'm looking for things like simile, metaphor, symbolism, hyperbole, or personification. For example, in our last sonnet that we looked at, death was personified. Shakespeare talks about death as a him, turns it into a person. So that's the sort of thing we're looking for. And then I do want you to be prepared to talk to your classmates tomorrow about the things you noticed in your sonnet. So go ahead and get to work on that. And just like with yesterday's homework, if you are working on it and you're stuck, please check out my website and look at the screencast, and I will walk you through whatever you need me to walk you through. Thanks, guys. Do your work.